Our next writer, Linda Heuring, is a short story writer known for her character-driven narratives and her penchant for the overheard phrase. She has won the Irish-based Fish International Short Story Prize, the Rash Award in Fiction, and was shortlisted for the UK Bridport Prize. Her 2017 short story collection, A Woman Walked Into the Bar, which I think she has for sale here, if I remember right, was named an editor's pick by New Pages, and the Irish Times wrote that, quote, character creation, vivid scene setting, humor, and authentic dialogue are some of the strengths of this excellent short story collection. Linda, please.
I think I may have run into some of your conspiracy theory friends on the train. This story came from observing a man on the train, and his actions were so interesting that I started writing them down and then created this whole world for him. The story is titled, Until There's Not. Roger navigates the 3 metal steps into the train with his hands full. The cardboard coffee cup has a neckband to protect his hands, but it just makes it unstable. His briefcase leather is soft, scuffed from 3 decades of transport. The rectangular handles, once stiff as belt buckles, droop into the shape of his folded fingers as if grafted onto his hand. He eases into the forward-facing bench where someone has scattered sections of today's trib. Monday again. The acid reflux pill he chased with pomegranate juice this morning is not working. He drops his briefcase. Maybe closer? Okay. He drops his briefcase on the seat opposite. The handles scrape the pointing finger of his left hand, leaving his Band-Aid in disarray. A black circle of a wound sits at the base of his thumb, and another is centered on the back of his hand. The Band-Aid hangs by a thread of adhesive off the tip of his fingernail. He touches the bandage with the edge of his cup, but he might as well be wearing boxing gloves. He feints with the cup as the train takes off. He hovers it over the seat with his briefcase, then waves past it to the air above the seat beside him. God, no, he can't sit it on the seat. Does he need to give that fucker Robbie any more ammunition by arriving with a buttload of coffee on the back of his pants? No. He leans over and balances the cardboard in the moon-shaped circle between his dress shoes. He wiggles the Band-Aid around, but it's not going to stay. He knows that. It's like a triangular hat made out of newspaper that won't last. His hands tremble. He retrieves his cup with both hands and takes a sip as the train slows. He grabs his briefcase, and the Band-Aid flips up like the lid on a Zippo. One stop, he's off. A short trip on public transportation, but he doesn't want to park his geezer car, the Mercury Grand Marquis he's babied for years, next to these kids' BMWs and Scions. The Band-Aid is a war wound in a battle with the Merc. He cut the fingertip and mashed his hand when he changed the wiper blades Saturday. Damn skin's as thin as those tasteless rice noodles Peking House delivered by mistake. Good wiper blades improve visibility, but these kids, boys mostly, didn't change wiper blades. They changed cars, or didn't, ran them into the ground and got another, always more to come. He didn't blame them. He must have thought that once too. Always more to come, until there's not. He's the third to arrive. Some won't come in till nearly noon. He's best in the AM, so he gets in around 7. He makes room in the communal fridge for his lunch, careful not to get too close to that round object growing what looks like chia pet hair. He's lost 25 pounds and 70 points on his cholesterol by changing to a Mediterranean diet, mostly fish and vegetables. The boys are curious. They watch him unpack his little plastic containers every day at lunch. They all eat at their desk. The kids grab something from the machine or share delivery pizza. 4 days in a row, pizza from a soggy box. His stomach hurts just thinking about it. They hoover up his leftovers. You gonna eat that biscotti, Roger? Hey, what about that apple, Roger? You gonna just let it sit there till it rots, or can I take it off your hands? shove anything in their mouths, these boys, until they can't. He walks the cube aisle past Sonia, the only woman on the project, her head clamped between a set of honest-to-God headphones, not the earbuds the boys all wear. He points a thumb in the air, a question. She smiles and wags him a thumbs up. Evidently, she got the nerve to read some of her poetry at an open mic downtown last night. She turns back to her monitors and flexes her toes to make a bright orange flip-flop slap the soul as she concentrates. She keeps to herself, like he does, an outsider based on sex and style. If he had to bet on talent, he'd bet on her. Not that the boys weren't brilliant. He'd give them all that. They may not be the IBM suit and tie professionals he'd started out with, but he'd learn not to let the desk cluttered with action figures and pin-ups of video game characters and brochures on $100,000 cars color his judgment. Creativity knows no package. Roger boots up his laptop. The kid showed him the value of multiple monitors. He plugs in and his screens flash gray, then blue. A shadow falls across his desk. A break in the fluorescent glare. A twitch in the fabric of the universe. Ravi. There is a call at 9:30, Ravi says. He grips an empty cardboard file box through one handle. Roger nods. He knows there's a call. There's one every Monday at 8:30. Just the idea of Mumbai being a half an hour different than the rest of the entire world pisses him off. The call is on his calendar, synced with his iPhone, his computer, his brain. I need you to fill me in beforehand, Ravi says. The PowerPoint's on the server. Irregardless, Ravi says, his emphasis on the second syllable. Walk me through it. It's irregardless, Roger thinks. Half the time he has to translate, shift the accent around in his head until he finds the word Ravi butchered. Ravi's got an MBA from Princeton, but he hasn't learned how to pronounce the words he uses. Hasn't learned, doesn't bother. Maybe he's a leader in the evolution of the English language. Trending, accents mark shifting. Some twat or twit will tweet that eventually. Just because Roger doesn't use Twitter doesn't mean he's ignorant of the process. Roger is a process man at heart. Roger types in his password and his Band-Aid spins. Ravi winces. That's a story about Ravi he wasn't sure was true. Rumor has it that Ravi once saw his son with a nosebleed and fainted dead away. Roger pulls up the presentation on his larger monitor and clicks through the slides. Each time Roger looks up, Ravi is nodding his head. Even if he hadn't sat through the workshop on cross-cultural issues Human Resources rotated all the consultants through, he'd have learned by now that Ravi's head nodding is no more a sign of agreement than the White Sox bobblehead on his grandson's lowrider dash. The whole training session was about how the Americans had to adjust, realize there was a tendency to say yes without working through the consequences, and no respect for time. Well, that's not exactly what the trainer said, but that was the gist to Roger. We in the United States are in a monochronic culture, she said. We see time as linear, and we concentrate on one thing at a time, even though some of us do have a penchant for multitasking. The class had chuckled at that. However, the culture in India is polychronic. They see time as cyclical. There are lots of interruptions and many things going on at once. An objective is just a suggestion, not a deadline like it would be in a monochronic culture. What's important is the relationships, not the output. Hence, the disconnect when working offshore. For Roger, though, this wasn't offshore. It was here in Chicago on the shores of the Great Lake, Michigan, and all this adapting was shredding his stomach lining like paper. Roger's job was one of go-between, making sure the client who wanted the software developed got what it wanted, and making sure the developers who were actually doing the programming knew what was required. A translator of sorts between business speak and cyber speak. So when Ravi tells the client, yes, 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 and the programmers explain there's no fucking way, Roger becomes the monkey in the middle until he isn't. Ravi puts the empty file box on the desk. Roger's name is scrawled on the side in thick black Sharpie ink. "For your things," Ravi said. "My things?" "To take home. We no longer need you." "Just like that?" Roger says. It's so like Ravi. Did he learn this at Princeton or in some human resources workshop on letting people go? Roger stands up and watches as Ravi steps back. It hits him for the first time that Ravi might be afraid of him. Not professionally or intellectually, but physically. He steps closer to Ravi, invading his personal space, something Ravi frequently does to him. "And there's a reason, I presume?" Ravi steps back again. Roger nods his head. It's true, he thinks. Now he loosens his neck and lets his head bob, then roll. "You're not friendly." "I'm not what?" Roger stops nodding and laughs out loud. He realizes it's out of character. He tends to have individual conversations, quiet discussions. Unless he's presenting, he focuses on the task at hand. Definitely monochronic. The cubicle's all open to the center, and Roger realizes the office has filled up but is strangely quiet. He shakes his head from side to side, not a cultural affectation, but a universal sign that things are not all right. He drinks a glass of his coffee rises up his esophagus, and he holds a fist to his chest and walks into the lunchroom. He drinks a glass of water, and the burning eases somewhat. He retrieves his lunch and packs up his briefcase. He pushes the file box aside, and it rattles. Inside, there's a metal button, pink lettering on a white background, which he recognizes. It's been stuck to the wall of Sonia's cubicle since the day she arrived. He knows the line is from A Midsummer Night's Dream. "Though she be but little, she is fierce." He looks over at Sonia. She smiles and gives him the wide pantomime for "call me." He turns the button over to see her number on the back. He zips up his briefcase as a red ball of fur sails into the box, followed by a chirpy electronic ouch. A stuffed and angry bird has landed. Then a green hornet action figure, a can of gummy bears, a double pack of Snickers bars, a rubber band shaped like a Humvee, a banana. One of these boys bought fruit? Roger nods to the team as he picks up his briefcase and cradles the box under his one arm. When he punches the elevator button, he leaves behind a smear of red. His Band-Aid is gone, and he's opened his wiper wound. As the doors close, he sees Ravi headed his way, and in the seconds of hesitation before the wheels turn the cables to take him downstairs, Roger hears a thud. He smiles. A blood rumor is just a blood rumor until it's not. Thank you.